Hey everybody, welcome back. Another episode here of In the Zone. I'm Giancarlo Aulino, co-hosting as always here, Chris Martelli, Anthony Pagniello, and boys. Episode 150 today, and we got another list. This time, we're gonna go to the NHL's top fantasy hockey centers, a top 10 list here. We did the defensemen, we did the wingers. Now it's time for the centers, the trickiest position in fantasy, where it seems like everybody's a center. Depends on what league you're in. Offense stats, defensive stats come into play here. So I'll start off with honorable mentions. I'll go to you, Chris, first. Who just made it outside your top 10?
So honorable mentions here. I got Mark Scheifele of the Winnipeg Jets to just miss it. I think I think I was saying to Pagniello a couple days ago, this guy's been about a point a game the last 5 years in Winnipeg, and Nikolai Ehlers has emerged as a really awesome uh, offensive player. All of a sudden, I remember he used to average about 55 to 65. Now I think he's slowly starting to get up to the 75, 80. So Scheifele should get about 80 points. He is suspended just for the first game of the year. A lot of people actually, after that suspension, have kind of, I don't know, I don't want to say they've gone sour on Scheifele. I just feel like a lot of people's opinions on him have changed just a little bit, but he's an honorable mention. Another honorable mention I have is that streaky, fast beauty on the Islanders, Matt Barzal. I think he can have a great season. And the other honorable mention I have here is Elias Patterson, the guy that just got the extension from Vancouver. I think sky's the limit here. I think he could get you 90 points as soon as this year. But yeah, I got Patterson, Barzal, Scheifele, honorable mentions.
Yeah, really can't go wrong here. Honorable mentions just out of the top 10. I'll start off with Jack Eichel. Really wanted to put him in here, boys, but yeah, I thought with everything going on, I'd just leave him out. Sebastian Aho. I mean, any of these guys can be in the list. They're all point per game players. Ever since they made that fucking Hannafin and Hamilton deal, I think Aho's really taken off him, and that's really him and Svech's team. And yeah, I got Stamkos just out of the top 10. So those are my honorable mentions, boys.
Yeah, my honorable mentions here. I have Aho there. I agree with that one. I have Barzell. I just think he's close to a point per game this year with their team. It's going to be more of a defensive, grinding team. So I think Barzell will still get his points, but won't jump out in fantasy as much. And I have Tyler Seguin just outside the list because I don't know what Dallas is going to be this year. Every year since they've had their run there, like you don't know what you're going to get out of those guys. Some guys just come out of nowhere and make an impact there, and then they go to the Stanley Cup final, and then after that they follow it up by not really going anywhere. So I don't know where they're going to be. That's why I have them outside the top 10. And I think another one that might surprise you is Monahan. I think he's a 35 to 40 goal guy if he's really healthy and everything's firing off in Calgary. I think he's had a great career so far, but I think just the way that their system is, he's on the outside looking in on my list again. So Pagniello, kick us off with number 10.
Alrighty, boys. Number 10 from the Vancouver Canucks, Elias Patterson. Buddy only played like 20-something games last year. He was on pace to do what he's been doing the first couple of years. Yeah, just it could have been Aho, could have been anyone here. Like, it's all preference. I think he's just gonna continue on the path that he's been on, maybe around 80 points this year. Superstar, skilled center in the league. The guy's only 22 years old. Really, he's going into his third year. He played like 2 years and a quarter, so he's still getting his feet wet. So yeah, I got him at number 10.
Yeah, I like that too. Like you said, I could have had Pedersen in the top 10, just thinking, now with the contract behind him, business as usual, he's going to come in the year and he's going to absolutely dominate for them. But I agree there. I think anybody here at number 10 is fine. It's basically based on preference, but my number 10 is Mika Zabana Jed from the New York Rangers. I think Ottawa, they're stupid for treating this. I don't know what they saw at the time. It was long playoff runs with the Rangers. And like they just abandoned at what, like 23 years of age, way too soon. And now he's arguably going to be the captain for the Rangers. This guy can get you 90 points. I had him in fantasy last year. Do not drop this guy. He will bounce back. Even if he starts slow, he's got fingers in Panarin. Lafreniere's going to probably break out. Kako could break out. So I think Zabana Jed easily can get 40 goals, being on the first line all year with a guy like Panarin. So I got Mika Zabana Jed here, number 10.
Oh, I like that Capo Kako breaking out. I remember rookie season, I had him in a top 10. Yeah, it didn't work out well for me, so hopefully he ends up doing well because it's Zabana Jed. But number 10 for me, I'm going to go with Anzai Kopitar from LA. This guy is still solid. Last year, he really showed everybody he's still a top center in this league. Even though LA were struggling, I think like after that year, he's got his confidence back, and I think he's going to continue from there. They're going to be looking at maybe getting into a wild card spot. I think they might have a chance, depending on how Doughty and Kopitar play. Maybe the Olympics coming up will motivate Doughty more, but I got Kopitar having another big year. He's still far from done, and he's my number 10.
I fucking love that so much. Alrighty, number 9, I got Mark Scheifele. Easily one of the best two-way players in the game. He'll always go point per game pretty much every year. The fantasy, like the only thing with Scheifele really, like his power play points and his shots are nothing to die for. But other than that, like he's been over point per game the last 4 years. He's been the number 1 center on the Jets pretty much since his second, third year in the league. So Mark Scheifele is a safe pick. I got him at number 9.
Absolutely safe pick with Kyle Connor and Ehlers and Wheeler and all those guys there. Yeah, that's definitely a safe pick. My number 9 is one of the most safest picks you could probably get. I mean, he has had injury problems in the past, but Steven Stamkos, last 3 years, he's been relatively healthy. I think he's been well over a point a game the last 3-4 years, basically his whole career, just about there. If he never got injured, Aulino, we would be praising him a lot more. We would be praising him with the likes of Malkin, with the likes of even maybe Crosby, McKinnon. I think if Stammer never got hurt, he's probably a top 3 player in this league, at least from like 2012 to like 18, I want to say. So his injuries really did slow him down. He was one of the greatest goal scorers, battling with Ovi, I think, if he was healthy year in and year out for the Rocket. He's going to get you 90 points as long as he's healthy. And on the top line, I mean, if he's playing wing, if he's center, it really doesn't matter. He's got Kuch and Point. So I got Stamkos still on this list, number 9.
My number 9 might come as a little bit of a surprise, just based on last season, but John Tavares, number 9. I think him and Nylander started to find something there last year, and in a full year, he'll either play with Nylander, and when that's not working, they'll throw Marner and Tavares together, so he'll get a lot of service there. He's going to be on the power play with Matthews, so I know a lot of people have him outside the top 10 this year, but I still think with the Olympics coming up, him and Stamkos are going to be competing for one of those bottom 6 roles. Maybe he has an extra forward, and I'm not going to count Tavares out on that, so he's my number 9.
At number 8, I got Braden Point. Last 3 years, he's shown everyone that he's a number 1 player or a number 1 center on Tampa Bay, especially still with Stamkos on that team. So the fact that he took that role over at 25 years old for me is absolutely remarkable. Reminds me of a little Patrice Bergeron, maybe a little more skilled, a little more bit of a speedster. They got it set up over there in Tampa. I like 85, 90 points isn't out of the question. So yeah, Braden Point, absolute beauty. Got him here at number 8.
Yeah, my number 8 is Patrick Kane, like down the middle, Carolina, Sebastian Aho. I remember when we went to go watch that Finland-Russia game way back, 2016. Aho was the best player on that loaded Finnish team, and Aho hasn't really looked back. I remember when he got drafted, 2015, second-round pick. A lot of the guys, I think Sam Cosentino, a couple of the other Sportsnet guys were kind of they were questioning the pick, but immediately, this guy easily should have been a first rounder. He's just absolutely been incredible. One of the most dynamic Carolina offensive players of all time. The last guy that would put up numbers remotely close to this was Eric Stahl. So we all know how love Derek Stahl was in Carolina. Aho, he can get you 95 points as soon as this year. If Svech can get another gear going, get like 40 goals, I mean, that's based on Aho's performance. And if Aho is rolling, this team is easily top 3 in the Eastern Conference. Carolina, without Aho, just like what we mentioned with Gaudreau and Calgary, when Gaudreau's not going, like Calgary's not that good. So if Aho's not going, Carolina's not a top 3 team in the East. So Aho's one of the more valuable centers in this league and one of the more undervalued centers when you look at fantasy. So for me, he's number 8.
Yeah, I'm sticking to this 2015 theme I got going on here for number 8. I got Steven Stamkos. Again, like I mentioned about Tavares, the Olympic year, I think that's going to make him a lot more motivated, and I think he'll play a lot more games this year. He's been injury prone in the past, but that playoff run he was doing well, and I think him playing there, Point probably taking a bigger role, it's going to free up more room for Stamkos. He's going to still probably get in the close to 40-goal range. I think the 60-goal years are behind him, but he's still a really good center in this league, so I got him at number 8.
At number 7, we got Mika Zabana Jed. Absolutely love this player. I think a career high is incoming, maybe around 45, something like that. I think him and Panarin, absolutely deadly duo. I don't want to give it all to Panarin because I think people forget that Mika had that 70-point year on Panarin's last year in Columbus. To me, that was the year he really showed that he was a number 1 center. And then the last 2 years with him have just been fucking sensational. So I could see him absolutely exploding this year for Mika Zabana Jed. I got him here at number 7.
Yeah, my number 7 is the guy in the middle there, Sidney Crosby. Listen, I know it's kind of low for him. This is his 16th, 17th year. He's coming off an injury. If he wasn't injured, he's probably higher. But, you know, there's the guys in the top 6 here I just think are going to have better years. I think they're going to accumulate more points. But Sidney Crosby has been a point a game for 16 straight years. Who does that? Like, nobody really does that in this league. If you really want the safe pick here, other than a few weeks he'll miss in the year, like Crosby's rolling every single year. Points per game, power play points, shots on goal, plus minus, even though Pittsburgh, I think he's only been a really big minus maybe like 3 times in his career. But other than that, Sidney Crosby, man, one of the most safest fantasy picks you can take. And it's crazy for me to even have him here at number 7, but for now, he's at number 7.
Number 7, I'm going to go with the Vancouver Canucks' freshly signed Elias Patterson. This is going to be a big year for the man. He's going to step out the shadow there of the Sedin twins. Those two guys had a nice little reputation. I think Patterson's going to take over here in this year and make everybody see that he's the next 100-point guy on the Vancouver Canucks. So I'm expecting a massive year out of him. I think this is going to be a year where people talk about him coming out of this year, going into the 2022-23 season as one of the premier offensive playmaking centers in this league. So he's going to start that off, I think, in this year, and that's why I got him at number 7.
Number 6, we got Sidney Crosby. Like Chris said, he might miss some time, but I don't give a shit. It's Crosby. He does it every year. He is 34 years old, but last year was still the perfect example of him going 62 points in the shortened season. I don't think a drop-off's coming anytime soon. Just because he's not 1 or 2, it doesn't mean he's fucking washed up or however you want to word it. If Crosby finished 1 or 2 this year again, I wouldn't be surprised. So you got to love Sid the Kid. I got him at number 6.
I love those guys that say he's washed. It's so funny. It's like, okay, he's not gonna put up McDavid numbers at 34 years old. Like, let's just be real here. My number 6, it might be a little high, but I think he's going to be the guy that he's going to be on the top line all year in Tampa. Braden Point. I got him at number 6 here. I think 38 goals is a realistic expectation for him. Listen, this guy's a mix of Bergeron and Barzell. So this guy's a flat-out problem, Braden Point. Ever since coming in the league, I didn't really take him seriously at first. I remember when he was captaining World Juniors with Marner there. you look back at that team and holy shit, the star power. I mean, they weren't advertised as much and advertised to win, but holy shit, man. Braden Point, after that year coming up, I think he had the 40-point year. Then he went, I think, to 60, and then right at the point of game in the third year. So like every other superstar, the third year is where you basically break out. And since then, he hasn't looked back. Like you said, Pagniello, 24, 25, he took over the starting center for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And that's taken so much pressure off of Stamkos. And I think Braden Point might be, I know this might be crazy, but last year's playoffs, he might have been the best player on Tampa Bay, getting 14 goals. So Braden Point, man, he's as clutch as they come, and he's just a flat-out superstar. I wouldn't be surprised if Cooch has a really strong year. I wouldn't be surprised if Braden Point is one of those centers that gets 100 points.
Yeah, my next pick here in this fantasy hockey list is Sidney Crosby. Sid the Kid. It's going to be a little tougher this year with Malkin out of the lineup. He's going to miss a chunk of the season, but he still has Gensel playing with them, and depending on what they do with some of the trades around, Kapanen is another guy that might be able to slot in there with Crosby, but I think Crosby's still good. Close to 90 points, I'll say, for him this year. He's going to do everything for Pittsburgh, and then when Malkin comes back, it's going to hit another gear. So I think Crosby, even though it might be low, like everyone had him in the top 1, 2, and then 3 the last decade, I think now this little slip isn't a reflection on his quality as a player. It's just the teammates he has now and finding new chemistry. So I got Sid the Kid in this spot.
Kicking off the top 5, we got from the Florida Panthers, Alex Barkov. Fuck, I was debating back and forth on this for 4 and 5, but I went with Barkov here. I'm thinking, another 100-point threat, like pretty much everyone in the top 10 is. Him and 2 other specific players are really carrying that team, really brought them a whole new life. But Barkov, really since ever stepping foot into the league, has taken over that team. So reminds me a lot of Kopitar, a lot more silkier, but man, a few more Selkies down his way for sure. Man, 90, 100 points. I could see this guy being around our top 5 pretty much every year. So absolutely love Barkov. He's going to do it again this year. So I got him at number 5.
Yeah, my number 5 is Austin Matthews. This was tough. Having him, just even outside the top 3 is a little tough. I've seen some people put him in the top 3. Just if your fantasy, values goals a little more, he's obviously the favorite, I think, to win the Rocket Richard Trophy. You have guys like him, Pasternak, McKinnon, McDavid. These guys are going to get you about 50 goals. But Matthews last year had 40 and 56. He was on pace for 60 easily. I was saying to Pagniello, this guy, Aulino, there's not a lot of guys in the league that can get you 60 goals. I think we've only seen it 3 times the last 20 years. And Matthews can do it. I think 3 years ago, the injury-riddled seasons, he had 30 and 55 and then 35 and 55. So this guy has been on pace to get you about 50 goals every single, even his rookie year, 40 goals in his rookie season, 4 goals in his first game. This guy just screams even strength goal scoring on a completely different level. I've said this in numerous pods before. He's the greatest even strength scorer in the league, no doubt about it. He can get you 88. I'll say for now, if the wrist injury does hold him back a bit, I have him projected right here 47 goals. I think he could get more than that, but for now, I'm just going to kind of lowball Matthews. I got him at 88 points projected for this year, 47 goals. I think his assists will go up a bit. I think Marner will actually get a little more goals this year too. So I got Matthews at number 5, but he could even be number 3 on most people's lists.
Yeah, this is tough now when we get to the top 5. A lot of guys in this league, with fantasy, like you guys were bringing up, it depends what league you're in. I still think 5 is a toss-up for me, but I'm going to go with Braden Point. He's going to have a lot of offense. He's going to have a lot of great assists there, playing with Kucherov. On the power play, I think he'll probably play with Stamkos and Kucherov, depending on what they want to do with it. But I got him at 5 just because of the complete game that fantasy hockey, a lot of the leagues like covet. So Point is going to be one of the top point getters at the centers when this season's over. But I got him at number 5 for fantasy.
Number 4, I got Austin Matthews. Really splitting hairs here, but yeah, the 41 goals in 52 games last year is fucking mind blowing. Was telling Chris, it reminds me of Brett Hull when he did it. I can't remember the year, late 90s. But, man, yeah, very few in the league that have that ability. Matthews is one of them. He's a threat to win the Rocket most years. Yeah, around 50 goals, not out of the question again. If the Leafs power play, like it was a long stretch where it was dry. So if that gets going, for Marner and Matthews and everyone, watch out. But yeah, you could have Matthews at 4, 5, 6, 7. Doesn't matter. I think everyone's going to agree that he's a threat for 50 goals most years. So I have him at number 4.
Yeah, my number 4, continuing this list and continuing praising Florida. I got Alex Barkov. I think this is the year he gets 100 points. Man, this guy is probably, when you look at the word dominant, Barkov is there, Draisaitl is there, Rantanen is there, McKinnon's there. Like, these are the guys that you look at least from the center perspective. They win the draws, they hit. Their defensive game is crisp, it's clean, it's just perfection. When I look at Alex Barkov, I remember, I think it was the 2018-19 or the 17-18 year, NHL Network did their top 20 centers, and I think Barkov was already 4th at like 23 years of age. So kind of like how we've been praising Pedersen and Barzal and all these younger guys coming up, at least on the offensive end, you got to remember Barkov has both the defensive game and the offensive game. And his offensive game, oh my God, it's ridiculous. I don't know, Pagniello, I really don't know who I can compare him to. I want to say Kopitar. I want to say a Lindros. I want to say so many names here, but like, this guy is one of the scariest guys in the NHL. Florida is one of the best teams in the league this year. I think he's absolutely going to dominate. If he can get a Selke and maybe an Art Ross in the same year, that just screams legendary. And if there is one guy that can do it, it's Alex Barkov. Like we've mentioned, I think 2-3 years ago, Goudreau being an X factor to win the Art Ross, scratch his name off and put Alex Barkov's in for this year for me. I think Barkov is a dark horse for me to win the Art Ross trophy.
Yeah, my number 4 here is Alex Barkov. Everything you mentioned, I think he's a guy that he's going to come in there, do everything, offensively, defensively. He's kind of like a Jonathan Taves, except I think he's going to be more of a prolific goal scorer, especially something that Florida needs here. They're a market. They're competing with Tampa, so they have it tough, but Barkov is a king over there. He's a captain, and I think he can finally lead Florida past the first round here. And it's going to be exciting to watch. Battle of Florida. Who would have thought?
Sticking with that 2013 theme, at number 3, Nathan McKinnon. Yeah, man, just basically since the Matt Duchene trade, he's taken over as one of the best in the game. You should have like 400-point seasons, but the shortened seasons have just really fucked them over. Yeah, I expect he's going to get 100 points this year. I don't know what the goals and assist totals are going to look like, but he's that guy. He's arrived. He's going to be here every year. He's a superstar player. So Nathan McKinnon at number 3, sky's the limit. Chris, take it away.
Yeah, number 3 is Nathan McKinnon. I think if it wasn't for Leon Draisaitl, I think he's easily number 2. Like, it's the easiest number 2 you could pick here, but Dreisidel and McDavid are just on a completely other level. But McKinnon, he's going to be right behind Draisaitl, I think, for points. I think when you think of a guy that can erupt any minute and you look at what he did in his press conference after the year ended, he's pissed off and he's motivated. And this is, I think, year 8 or year 9, and he hasn't won anything. So I think this is the year where, when it comes to the regular season, he's going to make people pay, and he's going to make people realize how dominant he is. And like you said, since Matt Duchene getting traded from Colorado to, I think it was Ottawa at the time, he's just absolutely dominated. And it hasn't even been close. It's like Matt Duchene was his kryptonite or something. as soon as Duchesne leaves, McKinnon just becomes a completely different player. He knew it was his team, and he hasn't looked back since. Like you said, Pagniello, I think, what was it, 3 years in a row, he's had like 91, 93, 97, something like that. So, yeah, he should have 300-point seasons. Not a lot of centers in this league can easily get 100 like him, like McDavid, like Leon, like the elite offensive centers in this league. And McKinnon, year after year, he also improves a little more defensively. But for now, Nathan McKinnon, he's number 3. But, guys, I wouldn't be surprised if he wins a Art Ross. I could see him getting 115 points if everything clicks for him. And you know what? I'll take it. This is a page out of Pagniello's book. I wouldn't be surprised if number 29 could win the Maurice Rocket-Richard Trophy by season's end.
Hey.
Ooh. Well, my number 3 is Austin Matthews, Toronto Maple Leafs. So I got 2 of them in the top 10. I think Matthews, like, I remember seeing on some of the radio shows here, I won't mention names because they probably regret saying it, but they said that Austin Matthews disappears at times. And if this guy's going to score 50 goals and he disappears at times, fuck, just imagine what the ceiling is. This guy can get 60 goals a year. I think it's possible this year. And if he plays a full year, if he has Marner on his wing the whole year, he's going to benefit a lot. And if they end up changing it, he still has that chemistry with Nylander. So I got Matthews getting 55 to 60 goals this year. I think the points total might be close to 100, like somewhere in the 90 range, high 90s. But Matthews is going to take another step in his development, which is crazy to even say, but he's a generational talent. He's going to be number 3 on this list just because of the other guys ahead of him for this year. But when we make this list next year, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot more people don't see Matthews as a formidable number 2.
Number 2, Leon Draisaitl. I thought he was going to tap out after that 77-point year. I'm like, all right, he's going to maintain that. He's going to be a solid player, kind of like what Kopitar does every year, around 60, 70, just, solid two-way game in back-to-back 100-point years, and he puts up 84 in the fucking shortened season last year. It's going to be like McDavid leads by 30, Draisaitl will be behind him by 20, and then the third guy will be behind him by like 30. Like, it's not even close. These guys are they're killing everyone. Draisaitl, he's a horse out there. He's everything you want in a player. So obviously you could look at McDavid and be like, he gets more, but you could say that with every player in the fucking league if they play with McDavid. Draisaitl's a superstar centerman. He's here at number 2 for me.
Yeah, a lot of people forget that this guy went 3rd overall, right? Like a lot of people. It's weird because when I watch and I read and I do my research on these players, and some of these guys that just write articles just, I guess, for controversial takes, or like for years now, it's been like 3-4 years where everyone's saying, is Leon Draisaitl really a top 10 center in the league when you like put him on another team? And I've heard these debates and hot takes with guys like Malkin in the past, guys like, like Gunsel and all these wingers that, come to a team and, they produce, but they're with the best player in the world. And like, look, even the whole Taylor Hall thing, like when he fell off a cliff after New Jersey, and it's like, this guy, leaves Edmonton, goes to New Jersey, wins an Art Ross, and goes to, Arizona, and he's shit, or Buffalo, and he's shit. But with Leon Draisaitl, people forget this guy went 3rd overall. He's one of the most dominant centers in the league. I want to say the last 5 years. I think that was the year he got the 70-something point year, was when McDavid even went out with the injury, missed half the year. It was basically Leon's team at that point, and he was only like 22 years old. So Leon's been doing it since he was just like a young 20-year-old. So Leon's been doing it for 7-8 years now, just dominating the league. And like you said, 100 points easily every single year for me. What he did 2 years ago, was that the year after Kucherov? Maybe it was the same year Kucherov won the Art Ross. He still put up 110 in 74, and then he put up, I think, 118 the year after that. And then, of course, 84 in 56. So Leon Draisaitl the last 3 years has been on pace for about 105, and I don't see him getting under 100 as long as he's playing with McDavid. But again, Like I said, he's better than Scheifele. He's better than some of these other guys that I've seen hot takes. Scheifele is way better than Dreisidel. If it's a guy I want late in games, I'm taking Scheifele. It's like, you guys got to start realizing that this guy is greatness. He is one of the best players in the league, and I'm so happy that he's just been dominating these lists year in, year out, because a lot of people doubt Leon Draisaitl.
Coming in at number 2 for me, Nate the Great up in Colorado. He's just a guy who really developed. He came in on the 4th line, which is crazy mismanagement on Colorado's behalf, but I played with some of the centers there. It was Stasny, it was Duchesne, O'Reilly. He learned from those guys and probably was a better player than Duchesne. Should have been given more opportunities, but we saw what Mckinnon could do in the recent years where he's leading Colorado playoffs every single year there. And I see him taking another step this year. I think he's going to get a lot more assists than goals, and he's going to be one of the playmakers that jump out at you, a threat on the power play, and might be one of the candidates there for that MVP at the end of the year. So I got Nate McKinnon at number 2.
Alrighty, number 1, Connor McDavid. I don't think there's much to say here. The man's played 6 years and has had 4 100-point seasons. One of those was 97 and 64. He's just been torching the league. Everything that's been said about this guy, it's been true and then some. So, yeah, like we were just saying about Leon, these guys have been taking over. McDavid, I expect, unless he gets hurt or some shit like that he's going to be like 1 or 2 pretty much every year. Yeah, man, boys, carry it away.
Yeah, there's not a lot of guys that do what McDavid does. And coming in the league, he had all the pressure in the world, actually. Like saying he's, he's the second coming of Gretzky. He's the greatest player to ever play the game. And this was before he even played a game in the league. And then immediately over a point a game on that terrible Edmonton team. And then, of course, he gets injured. Leon Draisaitl kind of, he accepts the role that he was the number 1 option at the time. And then, of course, McDavid comes back, and it's all sunny. This guy's getting 100 points every single year. He's easily going to be the most dominating offensive force that I can remember. Points year in, year out, he's getting 100 until he gets injured or whenever, like any setback. That's going to be 10 years from now. Because right now what we're seeing from him, he's 24, 25 years old, year 7, year 8 already. He's going to be just a dominating force. Aulino, just continue it because this guy's just the greatest.
Yeah, this is unfair. And still Edmonton sucks. So I don't know what the disconnect is there, but he tore his ACL. Just to put this in perspective, he tore his ACL and then came back and was still head and shoulders above everybody else. So he's a freak athlete. He's an unbelievable player. Draisaitl, I also have it. It's like a toss-up because you don't know if he's going to play center this year, which is why I didn't really have him in the top 10. He might start as a center, but Edmonton has so much pressure that I think they're going to be forced to put Draisaitl on the wing this year with McDavid, and they have all that money for Nuge, so I don't think they want to have Nuge as a winger if they're paying him that much. Probably balance out the lines and have him as a center. You got Hyman, our boy. He's going to benefit from playing with McDavid. So, McDavid, Draisaitl, this tandem is going to be there for a long time unless they get pissed off, which I wouldn't be surprised, and demand a trade like in Hoop. But until then, I got Connor McDavid and then slash Leon Draisaitl up in the number 1.
Yeah, you gotta absolutely love it. I mean, these guys, I like how you had Kopitar on the list because nobody really takes this guy seriously offensively. I remember when I had him, I drafted him last round when he had the 90-point year. Last round, 18th round, I take Anzai Kopitar. He's a freaking Hart Trophy candidate. Are you kidding me? Why do so many people? I mean, okay, you look at the team now, and they're basically just out of the rebuild. And Byfield, I would have said if Byfield was his second year in, let's say he made the team last year, Byfield, and he already had a whole year of experience, and then this is his second year and he's healthy, then maybe Kopitar wouldn't be on the list. But the fact that Kopitar now at 35 years old is coming off almost a point a game season. I think he had 52 and 56, something like that. And there's still no Byfield in sight. I think Kopitar is going to get about 80 points again because, man, this guy year in and year out, like I said, with Pagniello yesterday, we were looking at his stats, Aulino, and I think after he had the 90, he had 60 and then 52 and then 52 again, but in like 30 less games. So with him, he's hot and cold. But he's been, like, if you look back in his career, arguably the most consistent player in the 2010s for sure. So I love how you had him in the top 10 there. Gotta love Anzai Kopitar.
I wrote down a bunch of notes for players. I have Kopitar down here. The only thing I have written down here, I'm like, I don't care how old he is. I don't care the state of the team. He will continue to produce. And I'm like, that's all I need because it's fucking Anzai.
Yeah, you see him play for Slovenia. That really shows you how good he is. The Olympics, like World Championships, you see him when he plays with players who, let's face it, are probably, for the most part, AHL, ECHL level players. He carries them, and they can have some success just because of Anzai Kopitar. So that's why I'm going to not count him out. Like, he has that big contract. He earned it, won Stanley Cups there. So that's more of a way to stay loyal to your guys, and they know they're in a rebuild. So I think Kopitar, for as long as they want him there, he's going to continue being that player. But guys, we got to end on one topic here. It's making the rounds, and I think Arizona kind of goofed something because going into the draft, they had an opportunity to look at some of the markets out there, evaluate their team. Everyone knows they're probably in a rebuild, but they didn't do it. And now there was news yesterday that our man, Phil the Thrill, is probably on the way out, looking for a trade. So which team are you going for Phil Kessel?
Well, Chris started off.
I'm going with the theme of reunion, and I'm going to go with either Boston or Toronto. I mean, Pittsburgh would be pretty cool, too, to go back there, just looking at the wingers that they I mean, Brian Rush has slowly turned into a player, right? Like 60 points, I think, 2 years ago, 60 and 69, and then I think he had like 35 this year in the shortened year. If Phil Kessel were to go to the Pittsburgh Penguins, easily I could see him as maybe like a third liner. But if he were to go to the Leafs, holy crap, the media would just be in a frenzy. I know all three of us would absolutely love it. My biggest question is what the return is. I already know we're paying still a bit of his contract. I think, what is it, like 1.5 mil? But I don't know, Aulino. This is a tough one because I still think Arizona won the offseason. I think they know they're in full rebuild mode. You get rid of Garland and Ekman-Larsson. I think that screams what their whole direction is. And you got to feel for guys like Chychrun and Schmaltz and Keller that they're locked up there, but I think they have so much more to offer. But in terms of Phil Kessel, he's 30, 33, 34 now. He's been in the league for quite some time. He's a 400, almost a 400 goal, 900 point guy in this league, a Hall of Famer, 2-time Stanley Cup champ. Like Pagniello said last week, if he wants to really stay quiet, stay in Arizona, that's up to him. But I just think a reunion has to happen. I think Toronto or Boston would just be amazing. Like, I know we're Leaf fans here, but just picture it for Boston too. Like, maybe you gamble in trading a DeBrusk or maybe like a younger type of forward. Imagine the second line of Coyle, Kessel, and Hall. Like, that's just a nightmare for teams in the Atlantic. So, I mean, either way, I'd love to see Phil Kessel reunite with one of his OG teams from the past. That would just be absolutely incredible.
Yo, if I'm Boston, I am not trading DeBrusk for Phil Kessel. As much as I love Philly Cheeseman. What's his deal, though? How much time he got left on that?
Oh, this is the last year of his 8-year deal he signed with the Leafs.
I don't know why. It immediately came to mind when you asked the question. I just pictured Florida. Can you guys see that relationship?
Oh, yeah. Nice and quiet over there. 5 guys covering the team. Right up his alley.
I mean, like, it's like Chris kind of said, Phil, like, he's in the twilight years. He can kind of just, he's got the 2 cups. He's had his stellar seasons behind him. I I don't. No one really knows what Phil's thinking. I could see him retiring in Florida with that solid team there, putting up the couple nice 20-goal seasons and just right off into the sunset.
I mean, it's hard. Like, they just got Bennett and Reinhardt, and they have Vetrano, Duclair. Like, these, I don't know if Florida would be good, but
Phil is much better than all of those guys. Give me a break. Are you kidding me?
but like you gotta think of like, who the hell do they trade for Phil Kessel? Like, who are you trading from Florida to Arizona? Is it Owen Tippett? Is it someone that's not proven but young? Like, I really don't know. I mean, I could see it Florida in terms of Phil Kessel's character. The guy doesn't like being in the spotlight at all. How about a team that's never been in the spotlight? I mean, recently, and like, they have a lot of guys that could speak for the team in St. Louis. Like, I could see Phil Kessel going to St. Louis. I mean, Tyler Bozak's there, one of his great friends. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Phil Kessel be on the third line with like a Tyler Bozak, a Robert Thomas, someone of that nature. So maybe St. Louis too, low key, if he wants to stay quiet.
Also, this cap hit is about $6.8 million. His actual salary is probably a lot less, probably $3 maybe, because he's in that front-loaded deal. But the Leafs, I think, is a little tricky. I'd love to see him on the Leafs, but I don't know how realistic it is unless Arizona retains half of the remaining salary. So you add $1.2 million to the $3 million cap, you're still at like $5 million when he would be on the Leafs. So that would be Kerfoot, maybe Dermott. I don't know if they want to do that. Maybe a next off-season type of thing. From Edmonton, like, you got to give your head a shake and go after him. Like, add on to the wing there. You can have Kessel with McDavid and Hyman there too. He loves playing with those kind of guys. But I think he deserves it. If he went to the Leafs, I think, like, when he was on the Leafs, he had to play with Joffrey Lupul and guys like Grabowski, like Daryl Boyce. This guy, he's done his time. I think he deserves the opportunity to play with elite level playmakers, and they traded him right before he was able to do that. So I think if he were to come to the Leafs, play with those playmakers, we would see Phil the Thrill much happier to deal with the media.
Like, in terms too, like, we've been talking about Toronto with Phil Kessel for the last, like, I want to say 6 months. What is the return for him? Like, if we were really to look in depth of the Leafs and you look at their team up and down, is it a defenseman? Is it a prospect? Is it like a SDA? Are you going to trade a guy like him to get a guy like Phil Kessel that can, just maybe be that perfect fit on maybe like the third line, second line, a guy that can be one of the more reliable secondary scorers at this stage in his career? Like, that's the question for me. I know a lot of teams value different players at a certain level. Like, I know over the years, I remember a couple teams, they were tapping Taylor Hall to be a Hart Trophy guy for like 5 straight years. And then there were other teams that were like, nah, I don't want Taylor Hall at all. So I feel like that's the case with Phil Kessel. You look at him and it's like, yeah, this guy can get me maybe 25 goals in the right situation. And then maybe some other teams are just saying maybe he's just a headache and we don't want him. So I really don't know, but I guess I'll start with Pagniello. I mean, we looked at the Leafs roster up and down the last 5 years. We're trying to figure out what the hell will make this team win the frickin' first round of the playoffs. But what do you think the return would be for Phil? And what do you think Phil could bring to this team now? Would he be with Tavares? Would he be with, like, I don't know, would he be on the third line? Would he be on the top line? Like, I really don't know what I know the media would just absolutely explode, but I don't know what to expect from Phil Kessel if he were to come back in the blue and white.
Guy like Phil, this stage in his career, anywhere in the top 9, really. Like, if you put him on the third line, I don't think that's criminal at this point. He would get a lot of power play. The return, I don't think, would be as much as you guys think. Like, even though Phil would 20 to 30 goals, I don't know. Like, he's still an offensive beauty. It would probably be like a B-level prospect and a pick at this point. But and that's nothing about Phil's game. Phil hasn't dropped off in any way whatsoever. It's just the guy's 33, 34, and the style of play. But on the Leafs, I think he would put up 30 easily. I don't really care if he's with Tavares or Matthews or whoever. Like, the goal scoring would come for sure.
Yeah, playing with Marner too or Nylander. Phil would get 30 goals. So that'd be Phil coming back and to his old form, I think. He goes in the old stomping grounds, and I think it'd be a nice little reunion. I think they never even gave him a tribute, which is disrespectful. Carried the fucking team on his back. But yeah, like, can you imagine just him and Matthews, those two Americans together, sniping goals, top shelf, provide some entertainment? I think Kessel needs that. He does have 2 Stanley Cups, and you know what? Maybe this dressing room needs Phil Kessel. Like everyone said, oh, when he went to Pittsburgh, it was a problem. But you know what? Malkin and Crosby were a little too comfortable. They needed somebody to come in and not really care about hurting anyone's feelings and let his voice be heard, throw his weight around. I think Phil did that, and we saw what happened with Pittsburgh. They went back-to-back cups. So if Phil can come into a dressing room like the Leafs, where he has talented players around him, and it's not like before where they're relying on him a little too much, I think it can only lead to success. And it's going to come down to egos, I think, on management side, if they really want to bring Kessel back because of how they got rid of him, pretty much willingly retained salary. So I think it's more of an ego thing, and I think it's going to come down to if Shanahan and Dubas want to bring him back.
Okay, well, I mean, I want to close this podcast. I need to ask this question because, like, he still isn't signed, and now Pedersen and Hughes are. Brady Tkachuk, like, what the hell's going on with him? What is he asking for? Because I've heard that he wants like $9.5 million. And don't get me wrong, like, this guy is probably the future captain there. He's got a lot of intangibles. You know, he's a guy that he's great in the dressing room, a great leader, guy hits a lot. You know, he goes in the corners. He's never had 55 plus points before. And he's asking for $9.5 million. I know Ottawa, obviously, they want a player to be there for the long haul, like they did with Chabot. They gave him the 8-year, $8 million AV. But it looks like Brady Tkachuk doesn't want to sign the 8-year right away. I think he wants to do the bridge deal, like what Pedersen did, 3 years at about $8 million. What do you guys envision Brady Tkachuk to do in his prime, and what do you think the right move is here if you're the Ottawa Senators?
Oh, man. Keep playing hardball. No, I'm just kidding. Lock them the fuck up. They probably got to meet the cap floor to begin with. They got to keep all of these young guys. I see Brady Tkachuk as like a Landeskog type, but like a little more offensive firepower to his game. I'm usually on the other side. I like the bridge deals, and then like you kind of earn your way to get the money. But in Ottawa's case, I don't think if they would picture Ottawa Senators without Brady Tkachuk, he just leaves just like that. That's a shot in the arm. That sets him back years. It's very unfortunate because, yeah, I think this is the best player going forward on their team along with Stutzel. So they should really get him locked up. 9. I don't think he's worth 9 right away, but fuck, every other young player in the league's asking for the same thing. So I don't really blame him for holding out right now.
Yeah, I don't blame him for holding out. I think you need to lock him up. Maybe a 6-year deal. That's probably the only bridge you can do. You won't get him for 8, maybe, but you'll have to pay up more. And hopefully, by the end of the 5th year, you have a new owner in place that will actually want to give out deals and contracts. So if I'm the GM, I'm signing him for that long. I'm telling the owner, like, let's not mess around, or else it's going to give a bad reputation around the league. I think they can't afford to just let him go like that into RFA status and play hardball just for a 3-year deal. So I would just give him the 6-year, 7-year, whatever it is, at whatever salary he wants, because he's the most important player on this team for sure.
Like, to me, the biggest question is the AAV for me. I mean, if I'm Ottawa, I'm obviously giving him the 6 to 8 year deal. There's been no success the last like 5-6 years for sure with this organization. And, you know, they have to learn at some point. They have to learn from their mistakes. Like Matt Duchene left. They didn't get anything for him. Mark Stone, they traded the return. I mean, Mark Stone, I've said this to Pagniello and you, Aulino, numerous times. I think he's been arguably their best player that franchise has had in a very long time. He goes for almost, I mean, they got a good return, but like really, like you really want to trade a guy like Mark Stone? It's kind of hard to do. And I think at this point in your career, yes, you know, you just signed Drake Batherson who can get you 30 goals. I think he's locked up for 5 years. Stutzel, when his contract is up, I don't know what he's going to ask for, because I put top 20 centers here and he was like just scratching it already. I think he can get 70 points as soon as this year. But with Brady Tkachuk, there's a lot of holes. This guy still has not, I know you compare him to Landeskog, he still hasn't put together that 70-point season, that season that really puts me in awe and says, holy crap. And even Ottawa's management, I feel like they're still kind of hesitant. That's why they're still not really forcing a deal as soon as possible. A lot of people are saying this can be like a Nylander situation where it can go into almost November until they get a deal done. And that is just, it's scary to think, because guys like Stutzel, guys like Batherson, guys like Connor Brown, they've built a relationship around the Ottawa organization around Brady Tkachuk. And without Brady Tkachuk there, it's just like you said, it's a shot in the arm. I really don't know. Ottawa to me is still, like, I want to say 11th in the Eastern Conference this year. I think they're going to be better than Montreal, especially now with what's gone on with Carey Price. But I don't know what to believe with Brady Tkachuk, honestly. Like, is he a 60-point guy? Can he be an 80-point guy? He went 4th overall for a reason, but I'm still not sure with Brady. I don't know if I would give him $8.5 million. I think maybe 6.5, or maybe look at what his brother did, do the 3-year at like 7.1. But the thing that pisses me off, guys, I actually researched this. I don't know if you guys have looked at all these 3-year deals with these young guys like Barzal, Pedersen. You look at year 3, and they're making like $9.5–10 million. So I don't know if Ottawa were to do the 3-year deal with Brady, and then in year 3 it's like, yeah, we're giving you $9.75 million. I'm just not doing that. I know they got to meet the floor, but with me knowing that Stutzel's up in like a year, 2 years, it's pretty concerning if I'm an Ottawa Senator fan. So again, even if you're an Ottawa fan, do you want Brandstrom to break out? Like, I really don't know what's going to happen in like a year or two with all these young guys in Ottawa, but I hope for Brady's sake that he gets signed soon. But I'm blaming Seth Jones. Like, this guy just completely screwed the market, getting $9 million, and Darnell Nurse getting $9 million. Like, it's like, holy crap. Like, what the hell? The cap isn't even gone up. So I don't even know, man. I don't even know what to expect with Ottawa.
Yeah, I like it. Everyone should ask for more. Raise the salary cap. The league is always keeping it low. You know what? If more guys start throwing their weight around, saying we want 10 million, we want 9 million, eventually no one's going to be able to give all these contracts out, and it's going to force the league to raise the salary cap to like 95 million or 100 million like in basketball. But till then, guys, this has been a fun one. An interesting list. We got some notable guys absent from the list. We also have some veterans. I had Kopitar there. I don't know if anyone listening to the pod agrees or not, but I think he's a top 10 guy. Next week, we'll maybe have another one planned, but till then, guys, you got anything else to close out on?
Go Leafs, go.
Yeah, buddy.
Fill the thrill back to the Leafs. Let's do it.
Put his jersey up in the rafters. Guy's a legend.
Legends Row 2 right outside near the hot dog stand at Scotiabank Arena.
I'm surprised there's not a hot dog stand called like the Kessel Mobile or something like that in Toronto. He's that important to the city.
Give it time.
Well, that's episode 150. Stick around for next week. We'll be back with episode 151.